Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Pilot Talk podcast by OSM Aviation, where we focus on aviation-related subjects ranging from how you can get started with your pilot education to career advice for pilots and the latest news from the aviation industry.
Yeah.
And today, Michelle, what are we going to talk about today?
It's going to be a bumpy ride. It's going to be a bumpy ride. We're going to talk about things that maybe our viewers as passengers have experienced.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about turbulence. We're going to explain it. We're going to talk about everything that will give you some bumps and chops and that can move the aircraft around without you guys knowing, and it's not pilot induced. So turbulence,
wake turbulence, wind shear,
all
that stuff. And we're even going to get into a very hot topic on today's episode.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the progression of the certification or recertification of the 737 MAX.
So stay tuned, everybody.
It's going to be exciting.
You are listening to Pilot Talk by OSM Aviation.
Okay.
Stein, you're looking good.
Likewise, amigo.
You smell good too.
It's a good thing you point that out. So people know.
People should know.
Yeah.
We're not on TV, so they shouldn't know.
So
true, we're going to talk about what today, man? It's an interesting subject.
Yes, and it's a subject that is commonly misunderstood, I think, especially by non-pilots.
Yeah.
Turbulence.
Mm-hmm. The bumps.
The bumps, exactly.
The chop.
The bumpies, the chop.
Yeah.
It's something that a lot of people are, concerned about when they go out flying.
Yeah, I mean, even as, I don't fly anymore because, I got other things to do. But, as a passenger, I mean, you can hear people almost to a point where they scream if there's a bit of a bump or, even the landings when they're a bit hard, they're not comfortable. You can see people are stressed. They can, they hold the seat, they're not comfortable. They don't understand what exactly is going on.
And that's our hope today, right? That we can shed some light on that.
Yeah.
What is actually turbulence? How does it affect the plane? What kind of safety measures is there in place to counteract it?
Any prevention that we can do, things like that? Well, yeah, we're going to talk about all that. I think it's going to be an interesting episode. It's more geared towards the non-aviator, but you know what else? It's going to be quite interesting, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
What about when you fly as a passenger now? Are you worried about turbulence? Is that something you're concerned about?
No, not at all. No, I know that first of all, when they designed the aircrafts, they put them in they'll build an aircraft just to overstress it, to see how far it'll go before it breaks. So, and it's incredible how much stress an aircraft will take before it actually there's a structural damage or structural integrity.
It's amazing. Have you seen that wing stress video on YouTube on the Boeing?
That's the best one.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And it's so amazing because the engineers predicted where the wing was going to break. They bolted this aircraft to the ground, and then they attached cranes to the wings, and they pulled the wings up.
They flexed it, yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to link to that video on the Instagram post for this. So if you're not already following us on Instagram, go to search for OSM Pilot Talk. And for this episode on turbulence, we'll put up a link to that video because it really gives you a better picture of how much stress the airframe is designed to tolerate.
That's right.
And, what's interesting, you mentioned safety measures, is that when we're out flying, even if it becomes really, really turbulent, the airframe will never break.
Not even close.
It's designed to take so much more punishment.
Oh, my God. It's incredible.
And, what we'll do typically is that we'll slow the plane down, right?
Yeah, that's the first thing you do is slow the plane down. And typically you will get the aircraft in front of you on the same airway, on the same route. Will probably advise the people in the back following you that say, listen, we're getting some light chop at 30,000 feet. Just be aware of it. Or even the aircraft control on the ground will say, listen, we just got a pilot report saying that, there's turbulence ahead. And like you said, I mean, oh my God, I've never seen an aircraft in my career or heard an aircraft in my career that broke up because of turbulence. Even if they go into a thunderstorm.
Yeah.
Pilot Talk with Stein Mjotfit and Michelle Treskin.
Have you experienced some severe turbulence?
I've experienced turbulence, yeah, but I've never heard, like you said, about any hull damage due to turbulence.
Yeah, it's very rare.
In terms that it breaks the airplane, because like you said, we warn each other. Air traffic control tells us, other pilots, if they fly through turbulence, tell us.
Yeah.
And sometimes we can avoid it altogether. Right?
Exactly.
We might be able to fly over or around if it's a thunderstorm. But, every now and then we can't avoid it. We have to go through it.
That's right.
But the plane is designed to take it.
Oh, my God. That video is just... It's an eye-opener. I mean, it's definitely, our listeners will need to look at it if they haven't seen it before. And it's you won't believe but when it breaks, it's like an explosion.
Yeah.
That's how stress is up there.
It just pops the whole thing, right?
It's incredible, isn't it? Yeah. It flexes unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's three categories of turbulence. There's the light turbulence, medium turbulence, and then there's the heavy turbulence or severe turbulence.
Yeah.
And I've experienced all three of them. But again, you can almost predict the turbulence by looking at weather charts.
Yeah. Even our charts where it's mapped out, right? We have pilot weather charts.
That's right. That's right. They actually almost predict, or they take pilot report and they put it on the charts. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. There's turbulence you can't see.
Yeah. Clear air turbulence.
Yeah. CAT for sure.
Yeah.
CAT for short. Yeah. Yeah. But people that are listening that are non-aviator, non-pilots, again, you shouldn't stress. It's not an air pocket. It's not a void.
That's funny because you actually hear that quite a lot from non-pilots. It's like, we hit an air pocket
and we fell.
Yeah,
we fell in the hole.
That's not really what turbulence is at all, isn't it?
No, it's like a wave.
Yeah.
It's like air is like almost like a liquid if you compare it to water if you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's basically the air is in motion around our planet.
Yeah.
And it's all in different direction, and it's affected by weather.
Yeah.
I mean, there's jet streams and there's all kinds of stuff going up there that we don't see.
Yeah.
And we see it on Well, we get weather reports. We get upper air wind reports. We know exactly what's going on, and we can almost root out the planned route around them and all that stuff. And like you said, we get advised by the air traffic controller as well, and we look after each other.
Yeah.
You'll tell me if you hit something up in front of me.
Absolutely.
And the highway in the sky.
Yeah.
So don't panic when you do feel that kind of turbulence. I mean, it's scary stuff when you get into a severe turbulence.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's totally understandable, right? But that's interesting because that's actually where most of the injuries related to turbulence happens, right? If you're not strapped in to your seatbelt. Damage from people that are thrown into the roof or bounced around inside the cabin. That's the most common injuries from resulting from turbulence.
And that's people that are not listening to the warning from the pilot.
Yeah.
We're entering a zone of turbulence. The seatbelt comes on, and most people don't put their seatbelt on because they don't know.
And it's important that they do.
Oh my God, man! And like you said, almost every month there is something happening where people are injured severely. Sometimes where they break bones. You fly to the ceiling of the airplane and you come back down, crashing down with high impact. It'll break. Bones will break, and it's terrible. I mean, it's preventable.
Yeah, just put the seatbelt on. Strap in when that seatbelt sign comes on.
Put it on all the time. Mine is always on. Yours is always on. I mean, I take it off when I go to the washroom, but it's always on. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
loosen it up if you want, but at least you're not going to go and fly. 2-3 meters in the air.
And it might even result in damage to other passengers if you fly around in the cabin.
Yeah.
And even when we're sleeping, right? If we're going on a long haul flight, you want to take a little nap, get some shut eye, leave the seatbelt on, and leave it on the outside of the blanket so that the flight attendants can see. Okay, well,
they will wake you up.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. If the weather is pretty bad when you go flying, I mean. It's expected that you're going to get some turbulence.
Yeah.
So you should be aware of that. And, sometimes like you were talking about the clear air turbulence that you're talking about, that's clear. You can't see it. It's hard to expect unless you got reports from other people. But sometimes, it's not our fault, the pilots in the front. Sometimes they don't have time to put the seatbelt on because we like to have we like to have our passengers relax and they don't have to put the seatbelt if they want to, so it's nice, normally smooth flight. We always try to fly in smooth air.
Yeah.
So if we find there's a little bit of chop up and down, a little bit, then we will ask for climb if we can. If not, we're going to ask for descent. Not too low because then our fuel burn is different.
Yeah.
But there's things that we can do, but sometimes we can't do anything.
Yeah.
It pops up and then we can't see in front. So, it's transparent.
It's just riding right along.
Yeah. And it happens even in the small airplanes, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you definitely, feel them in the small airplanes.
Oh, much more, yeah.
It's just like having a smaller ship or boat at sea.
That's right.
It will be more noticeable when their waves are big.
Very good comparison.
Yeah, and but just like you said, the confidence in the fact that the airplane is designed to take it, and as long as you keep below a certain speed, the airframe will never break or bend.
Never.
But it will toss you around a little bit. You'll have updrafts and downdrafts, and you might not be able to maintain the altitude as you want. But like you said, there's always the option of climbing above it, descending, trying to stay at a different altitude, see if it's more comfortable there.
Yeah. But like you said, there's there are updrafts, there are downdrafts, and that's basically, if you want to call it an air pocket, but it's not. There's no void. It's just a current of air going up and a current of air going down. And if you go close to a thunderstorm, then the current air going up can be extremely violent, extremely rapid.
Yeah.
And on the opposite, if it's cold air, it's going to come down very quickly, and it can bring an aircraft down if you're not careful.
Yeah, but that's why we are so careful, right? That's why we avoid it when we can, or if we get into those conditions, we make sure that we fly in a way that maintains optimal safety.
That's right. And we have the weather radar as well on board.
The weather radar helps.
Yeah. Again, it's not 100% sure, but the weather radar will show you some, precip.
Yeah.
And precipitation, I should say.
Yeah.
Rain, snow, and any kind of precipitation will basically give us some kind of return on the radar. And you'll see that. And we have different colors in the radar that tells us if it's light or medium or severe, basically.
Yeah.
But it's there's no danger. You don't have to worry about it. It is uncomfortable, I guess, to a point where you can feel your heart go up and down. I can see. It's almost like riding these rides
roller coasters.
Yeah, I was thinking about our ride when we went in.
That was a good time.
That was a good time. Yes,
yeah.
It was your birthday, actually.
It wasn't my birthday. Yeah, we went on a roller coaster in Orlando. Maybe we should put that up on Instagram.
That
too.
would be good. That would be good. Holding hands. Yeah. But it's scary. It happens.
It does.
It does. There's no. I have. I don't think I ever had a flight. I don't know if you had a flight where it's been smooth all the way. It happens. There's some bumps here and there, and the captain will when he briefs the initial briefing before takeoff and all that, he always gives a bit of a weather update and said, "Listen, the weather should be okay en route. We might expect some bumps here and there, but we're going to try to avoid them. Just be aware of it. That's all." But and like you said, seatbelt on all the time. It doesn't matter. Especially for the kids.
Especially for them,
yeah, because they're going to be flying all over the place.
Yeah,
I mean, you're gonna lose your kid. He'll be probably somewhere in the front row. That's terrible.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Keep your seatbelt on, all that stuff. And I asked you the question earlier. Do you feel uncomfortable? I kind of know the answer, right? Because you're a pilot. You know how it works. You know that turbulence is inevitable and that it's not unsafe.
No, that's right.
And it made me think of when I was on a flight once. It was medium to severe chop, and I was sitting next to someone, and he told me, he's like, "How are you so calm? Are you a pilot?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's actually correct." Yeah. And the reason why I'm so calm is because I know that there's no danger with it. And he said, "Oh, that's, it's reassuring." So if you're ever on a flight and there is turbulence, and, look to the pilot, look to the cabin crew as well, because they're
still working.
Yeah, they've been exposed to it several times. They know what to do.
Yeah.
And they're calm in that situation, which I think,
It's a good indication that it's safe.
Yeah, it can be a
And-
reassurance.
And if it gets bad, I mean, the cabin crew will sit down. They'll stop serving, and then that's it. They want to sit down because they need to be strapped in as well, because the ride's going to be a bit bumpy. But again, there's no danger at all. I mean, none at all. Yeah. Even if you enter a thunderstorm, I mean, there's some severe turbulence where you lose. I wouldn't say lose control, but you're having a hard time controlling the aircraft.
Got to go with the waves.
Yeah, it's just like surfing, buddy. No big deal.
Pilot Talk. Available on iTunes, Spotify, or osmaviation.com/podcast.
Yeah, it's you know what, when I it's funny because when I ride as a passenger and I feel that turbulence coming up, I just love watching people. I would wish I could just stand up and say, "Listen, guys, enjoy." It's just like being on a ride in an amusement park. So relax, don't worry about it. Make sure that hold your drinks and make sure your seatbelt's on. But it's fun. I mean, but it can happen in other situations. Like what?
It can, yeah. There's, we have different types of turbulence. For example, wake turbulence, which is something that is induced by other aircraft. So
that's right.
When the wing generates lift, that works in a way that there's a higher pressure under the wing, there's a lower pressure over the wing, and that,
sucks it up,
sucks the wing up into the air. But the byproduct of this, and people have probably seen the winglets on the side. That's there to delay the effect of that airstream making.
Those
wingtip
vortices.
Yeah, wingtip vortices. There you go.
It's one of those aeronautical terms, but
yeah,
you're right. I mean, it's again, if we compare it to being in the water, I mean, if you had an object moving into the water, it actually moves water around, and if you're behind that, you will feel the effect of that some kind of wave, and you're right, and it's produced anytime the aircraft is flying. It could be on takeoff, it could be on landing, it could be when it's cruising around at altitude. If you're behind that airplane, you're gonna hit the wake turbulence. It's normal again,
and that's also why we have separation, right? So we need to keep airplanes separated, and both during takeoff and landing.
Yeah,
keep planes away from the wingtip vortices and from the wake turbulence of each other. And especially, if it's a heavier plane and you're coming behind in a lighter plane.
It's moving more air.
Yeah.
That's right.
And you're also more susceptible to the effects it's going to have on that plane. So, I was flying in California. There was a 777 coming in.
Yeah.
And coming into Ontario, we were flying on an airway going up north somewhere. And, we passed fairly a bit behind them on their flight path and well below them. But man, we got into that wake turbulence, and man, did we feel it.
Oh, yeah.
It bounced us around for a little bit, but once again, the plane's designed to take it. It's a little bit uncomfortable, but, just be vigilant in that situation. As a pilot, you would be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, my God, yeah. Yeah, well, 777, it's got a takeoff weight of maybe 250,000 kilograms. So that's moving a lot of air.
Yeah, that's a lot of weight.
And you're in a little Cessna that weighs what? How much? Like half a ton or something, maybe a ton or something. Like, yeah. 2,000, less than 2,000 kilograms for sure.
Yeah, it's like 2,500 pounds, something like that.
Yeah. So imagine hitting one of those waves.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're talking about wake turbulence separation, absolutely. And that's why when you look at, if you're a plane spotter and you're on the threshold where the aircraft is coming for landing and all that, you'll see that they don't land one after each other. There is a separation, and that's to avoid that turbulence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, don't worry about it.
No, it's just it's nice to know that that's type of turbulence that's out there. And
I think it's a good thing that we educate people like that.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
I think so too.
Where else can it happen as well?
Wind shear.
Ooh, wind shear.
I don't know if
I'm not crazy about that.
Nah, wind shear is not. That's no fun.
No.
And basically, what it is that when you pass through or descend or climb, for that matter, but you pass through a layer where the wind is substantially from a different direction and maybe even velocity as well. So basically, what's going to happen is, if you're descending, for example, from 5,000 feet and you're going down, and then as you pass through 4,000 feet, the wind below changes direction 180 degrees. So let's say the wind is, you have a headwind at first of 20 knots, and then all of a sudden you have a tailwind of 20 knots. That's a 40 knot difference, right? So if you're flying at 300 knots, the things are going to happen to your airspeed. You're going to lose airspeed. And,
That's true. Yeah.
And in that, but once again, aviation is designed to be really safe, and we have wind shear warning systems. And we'll tell you wind shear.
Yeah.
And we have something called a wind shear escape maneuver that we practice a lot. So when we get into those situations, we know exactly what to do to get out of them.
You practice it every 6 months.
Yeah.
It's a requirement. Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. We've got wind shear warnings. We have, it can happen anywhere, but the most critical part of a wind shear is when on takeoff or landing. That's because we're at lower speed. We're climbing or descending. We're close to the ground, and that's why we need to have those escape maneuvers. It's a scary thing. I'm not too crazy about the wind shear, because when it does happen and it happens close to the ground, then it's quite an aggressive maneuver. That escape maneuver is quite an aggressive maneuver, because you want to get away from the ground as fast as you can, as safe as you can. So I've never done it in actual fact. I've practiced it and all that stuff, but I've never done it in actual fact. So if I would be a passenger and you're recovering from a wind shear warning, it is an aggressive maneuver. It's a high pitch. If you're coming for landing, you have to go around. Yeah, it's an aggressive maneuver. Have you ever experienced a wind shear?
No, just like you said, I've trained it. I've practiced it a lot, but I've never had to use it in real life. But that's you might only need it once in your career and possibly never, or once or twice or 3 times, whatever. Yeah. But when you need it, that training comes in really handy, because you know instinctively what to do. And the escape maneuver, I guess, could be different for different aircraft.
That's right. Yeah.
For some it's full power and pull back to the stick shaker.
Yeah, which is probably the fastest way to get out of it.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of times where I've been coming for, preparing for a landing, like an approach, where I've been warned that there is a wind shear warning on the aircraft in front of me, or 3, 4, 5 aircraft, which will now, at the point, look at the weather and say, well, should I attempt a landing or go somewhere else? I have had that happen, but I've never experienced it. But you're right. We're just like the Boy Scouts. We're prepared.
Yes, indeed.
All the time.
Actually, one time I have experienced it as a passenger.
Ooh, really?
Yeah. We came into Newark, and it was a 747.
Ooh.
And they got wind shear very close to the ground. So what it resulted in was they didn't even have time to escape.
They landed.
But we did a hard landing. Ooh. And it was so hard that the overhead
compartments
opened.
The bins?
The oxygen masks came out.
Get out.
And the 747s that have those old TV screens? It's not a flat screen. It's a big old school TV.
Screen,
a thick TV. And the speaker came out and was hanging there from the wires. So
wow.
Yeah, and then people screamed for like maybe 10 seconds, and then they got their phones out to take pictures and put them up on Facebook.
The rubber jungle.
Yeah.
Well, if that happens, I mean, wow, that's pretty severe. Hard landing like that. The aircraft is built to take a landing, but sometimes you'll exceed the limit and needs to be checked and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Wow, what an experience.
Yeah, and that's why I, from now on, always sit with my back straight as we're coming in for landing.
Wear a belt and all stuff.
Yeah, that's another good.
Yeah, sometimes if it happens, it's very quite low level wind shears are not the killers, but they've been known a long time ago before we had the predictions and all that stuff. It did. There's some aircraft that have been lost and lives were lost because of wind shear.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good thing you bring up there, because one of the things that I think is so amazing about aviation is the culture to learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the safety improvements, a lot of the things that have made flying so safe as it is today is wisdom and experience coming from accidents and bad things that have happened.
That's right.
But it's so incredibly important that we just cherish the knowledge that can be found in the mistakes that have been made in the past, because then we can avoid making the same mistakes again.
Well said. Well said.
And there's actually a really good book on this that I've just read that's called Black Box Thinking. Yeah, I could recommend you should check that out. And if some
I'll
of the
check it out,
listeners
yeah.
want to hear about it, it talks a lot about how aviation works with learning from our mistakes and compares it to other industries as well. Really good book.
It's like everything else. Every time we make a mistake, we actually learn from it. And if we don't make mistakes, we're not going to learn. We're not going to move forward, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be. It must be a nice book. I'll probably read it.
I think you'll really enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's unfortunately that lives have to be lost before we do something about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like the MCAS on the 737 MAX.
That is, now we're getting into something that a lot of people are talking about today.
Yeah. Well, here's a good question for you. Maybe off subject a little bit. Well, it's on subject.
Yeah.
Would you, knowing that the 73 MAX is going to go back, maybe go back serviceable,
Yeah.
and you're a passenger and you're about you're supposed to go on a trip. Are you going to get on that aircraft if you had you and your family on board?
Yes, I think I would.
Okay.
And I think, in the aftermath of this, there has also been some learning experiences.
Right,
And they've talked about the way that it was certified and the lacking training for the pilots. And I think that when and if the aircraft becomes operational again, there will be, it will be a rigid process and it should be safe because, and, it is a good aircraft to fly. I have never flown the MAX, but all the pilots I know that flew it says it's a great plane to fly.
Yeah.
It's modernized. It's a great working environment, and
7.3 on steroids.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And but the things, and I don't know what your perspective is on this, but some of the criticism that's come out is that they wanted to make the training seamless, which is understandable from a financial perspective, right? Because you can take pilots who've flown the 737, and with a small amount of training, they could start flying the MAX. Understandable.
Yeah.
But the issue then becomes that there's this MCAS system that the pilots are not aware of.
Ethically, that was wrong.
Yeah.
Well, not saying anything about it.
No, but once again, and I think we've talked about this, about these accidents, about other. It's an interest that we have looking into the mistakes made in the past and drawing wisdom and learning from them. I think all pilots have that mindset, but I think that's exactly why as well. We look back, and in hindsight, many things are more clear, and many things are easily identified, and it's easy to point at the mistakes and the errors that were made. But it's all about having the mindset of seeing those things and going, we can learn from that.
Yeah.
It's not about pointing fingers. And it doesn't come, I think you said that on one of our episodes, it doesn't come from malice.
No.
There is no negative intent. It's just a desire to learn.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because, and I'm happy you said that, and I think that you've opened my mind a little bit on that one, because I was thinking about that last week when someone asked a question to another person, and I was listening to it, and the guy said, no, I wouldn't put my family on that airplane because really, they say that they're going to fix it, but really, do we know?
Yeah.
But now listening to what you're talking about and how they've definitely they scrutinized the whole system, and they're going to definitely they'll probably reinvent the wheel if you want, if I can say that. And now after listening to what you're saying, I think I totally agree with you. I think you just changed my mind that I was hesitant because I'm a bit angry about with Boeing for doing that kind of stuff. I thought that was unethical.
Yeah.
It's immoral, I think, that what they've done, if I can use those big words, because for me, it's as a pilot, and for you as well as a pilot, it's almost gross negligence sort of thing, But anyways, it's where you can beat the dead horse for a long time, but we're moving on, and like you said, we've learned about it, and you've just convinced me that you're right. If it does happen, I'll get on board. I've flown with the MAX before as a passenger, but we didn't know about it. Now that we know, there's a lot of things. But I really appreciate that you gave me that insight. I never thought about it that way. It's always been the negative way sort of thing. But the way you said it was very positive, and I hope that the listeners are listening. And I agree with Stein. And yeah, thanks, man.
Well, that's my pleasure.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that because I know the things that you're saying now, that the frustration and annoyance with and anger towards Boeing, we've spoken about that before, and I'd just like to ask you a follow-up question to elaborate a little bit.
Yeah.
Could you explain where that frustration comes from? It's because they took away the pilots of the equation? Is that correct?
Well, for me, yeah, I'm the old school guy, right? I mean, when I was flying, we had automation, but we rarely used it that much because we love to fly.
Yeah.
Right. But nowadays, it's almost like this automation is trying to take away the ability of the pilot.
Yeah.
He's there now. Now pilots they're not really flying. They're flying. I mean, they're taking off. They're landing if the weather's fine.
Yeah.
If the weather's crap, they land automatically. So I'm a bit frustrated with that because they tried to. They put on bigger engines. They did this and that to the max, and that they instead of saying, "Well, listen, guys, just be aware of it. If it happens, you're going to be. It's like a wild horse. You'll have to control it." But they said, "Well, instead of asking the pilot to control it, we're going to put a sort of a system that will actually help the pilot." But they never really asked the pilot, saying, "Why don't you try it without it?"
Yeah.
And they would have been okay. They would have been fine.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a little bit.
Because pilots are trained to fly.
Yeah, man. I mean, if you're gonna design an aircraft where the pilot cannot control it, then tell him.
Yeah.
But if he can control it, then don't worry about it. But if you want to put that luxury item, if you want to pay extra money for that sort of a safety feature, well, at least inform them. Be aware of it, and then maybe most of the people will say, "Well, I don't want to pay an extra $5 million for that kind of system. My pilot will take care of it and train him."
Yeah.
So it is one of those, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
We were talking about it before the episode. We were talking about single pilot maybe and do artificial intelligence. We're going to talk about that on another episode. But there's a lot of things happening right now but at least keep us informed.
Yeah.
For God's sakes.
Yeah. It's important.
Yeah.
And when and if there is an automated system and that goes wrong, pilots should be trained on how to deactivate it and fly manually, because that is what pilots are trained to do.
There should be a switch. There should be something that we just have to, turn it off. Yeah. We don't need to. Now, if we can't take control of it and it's out of our means, then okay, I understand it. But at least inform us. Stay. It's almost like it's like a window. You want to go see through it. You want to see everything. Don't hide things around.
Pilot Talk. Everything you need to know about being a pilot.
Alrighty.
That's it, man. Let's hope there's no turbulence on my flight for tonight. But anyways, I think that we've covered everything about the bumps and the ups and downs, I guess. And if there's anything else that the listeners would like to hear, non-aviation type guys, we're here for you guys.
Yeah, send us your questions, send us your feedback. Go to osmaviation.com/podcast. There's a form there. You can submit stuff to us, or follow us on Instagram, OSM Pilot Talk. Send us a DM, as they say. Send us a message. If anything you want to hear us talk about, if there's any guests you'd like to see on the show, let us know, and we'll be happy to explore those opportunities. And thanks for tagging along on this bumpy ride, guys.
That's right.
We look forward to the next episode.
You bet. Until then,
blue skies.
Happy landings.
Ciao.
Bye.
Maintenance of back. Delta 2 always ground. Thank you.